Welcome to A Better Way, the podcast dedicated to exploring deep topics in Ellie's book,
Integrating Faith and Psychology in a Better Way.
I'm Isa.
And I am Ellie. Hello, everybody. I'm Ellie, and I'm here with my co-host,
Isa.
And today we are going to talk about a better way to create new holiday traditions.
That is awesome. So we know how the holidays can be stressful. In the last episode, we addressed coping and tools and things that we can do to get ourselves more stable for the holidays. Now we're going to talk about traditions and family and all the things.
So, Isa, I know a little bit about your background. You know a little bit about mine. But for those who don't know us, if you read my book, you'll know that she and I have a very similar background. But I come from a very dysfunctional family, very enmeshed, very closed, ranked. And we had traditions that you had to do because they said so. Basically, how many of us have heard our parents say, because I said so? And many of our traditions were like that.
Yes. And sometimes, not every time, sometimes those traditions are filled with more memories and they're filled with feel-good emotions. I definitely have some from my childhood that are amazing and don't practice them for other reasons, but they are good memories. Now, other times, a lot of those traditions come with baggage and with trauma, and we don't necessarily want to be in that state of mind around our current family and don't want to bring what we perceived as dysfunctional activities into our family circle because we're healed, right? Or we're in a healing journey. Yes. And what do you recommend we do?
Well, so there's a lot of different things that we can do to break free from these dysfunctional family patterns. One of the very first things that we really want to focus on is setting boundaries early. I don't have to come to a holiday gathering that might have someone there that did some bad things to me.
Yeah. And there's uncomfortable conversations as well. Sometimes the boundaries is not necessarily physical, sexual, or anything type of abuse, but sometimes we have relatives that like to dredge up our mistakes as teens. I know that you go and it's like you never outlived the crazy, wild teenage high school years, and they don't let you move past that. Like to bring that up with your new spouse, or those are boundaries too that need to be set in these scenarios, particularly when you have blended families too. That could be a problem where there might be a relative that constantly brings up your previous relationship and does that in front of the children. So boundaries are honestly anything that affects you emotionally in a setting, and that you decide this is an off-topic situation, this is not appropriate behavior, and that's what you address. That's what we call boundaries. If that's really, and we're going to get into that, but you can't force people to obey those boundaries or to follow those boundaries. You set the boundaries, and it's your responsibility to either enforce them or remove yourself from situations where those boundaries aren't being honored, right?
Absolutely. So one of the things I ask my clients often is, who can you control? And many times I have people that will come and they'll say, but so-and-so did this, or my husband is doing this, and I need help. I need him to behave. But he's not in the counseling room. You are. And so we really want people to focus on what you can control. So that's tip number 2. First, set boundaries. And then second, very much like Isa was saying, you can set the boundary, but you can't control how other people are going to respond to them. Sometimes that means that maybe so-and-so has decided that they don't want to come because you're there and you've set this boundary and you said, we can set the boundary. We can't expect that somebody would respond the way we want them to. They're going to respond the way they do, and we can't control that. And so finding a way to be okay and focusing on the things that you can control.
And giving yourself and people grace and understand that everybody's on their journey. You don't have to tolerate behavior that's affecting your mental health, but you also do not have to essentially go in fix-it mode for other people. That is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to protect your environment emotionally and decide, do I rather have peace during this holiday season or just continue traditions that can be harmful for me and therefore my family? Because if you're in a place that every time you meet and you gather with a certain group of people, friends, family, it could be anybody, that you can't enjoy yourself, you can't even relate to your husband or your wife or your children, then that's not good for you. The Bible, we talk a lot about leave and cleave. And it doesn't necessarily mean that from now on I'm never spending a holiday with extended family. It's not that. It's just leaving and cleaving means you are your own family with your spouse and your children in this season. And it's okay to step away for your own sake, for the sake of your children, and bless people during the holidays, send gifts, send what you want, well wishes, maybe a short visit, but then say no, but Christmas Eve or Christmas Day or whatever tradition you want to follow moving forward that is yours and belongs to you and your family, and honor that. And people that truly love you and people that are truly in a healthy place will understand that. And people that are not, well, you don't want to be around that. That's the whole point.
Absolutely. So the next one is really practicing gratitude. Studies have shown that when I'm grateful for things, and I practice that on a daily basis, and a gratitude journal every day, or waking up in the morning and the very first thing is listing some of the things I'm grateful for, that helps us shift our attitudes from the negative to the positive. It helps us remind us what we have to be grateful for. And maybe there are people in your surroundings that you really don't want to be connected with. And you can kind of get the focusing what you can control and setting boundaries. And you can also look at, even though I choose that I want to be in the family environment with this other person, I can be grateful for the fact that I have the ability to walk out the door anytime I feel triggered or anytime I respect, but I can still choose me, and I can have gratitude for that control over myself.
Yes, and then it goes back to what I was saying previously with the focus on what you can control. You can still love your family. You can choose to what is your comfort level of what you practice in regards to these traditions, and be grateful for that. Show them gratitude too. Not only be grateful and know that you're grateful for the things, but be grateful to people. It's like so grateful for the memories we had, the good ones. But right now, I'm in a new season of my life, and I want to focus on this season of my life and just do it with, I think grace is the thing. It's gratitude and grace. Just be graceful about it. Again, being nasty, being essentially what you're trying to fight isn't going to change a person. In fact, being honoring of your boundaries and honoring of your mental health might make people reflect.
Yeah.
Did we go on?
Yes. We're going to talk about engaging in self-reflection. So, we look at other people as kind of the cause of all of our problems. And maybe some of my needs haven't been met. Maybe I'm hungry. We do those big holiday meals, right? And we
fast
get up
so
and I
we
want
can
to
eat more.
And what happens when we're hungry is sometimes we get a little irritable.
Yes.
And then we get hangry.
Correct.
The Snickers commercial. And we maybe turn into a different person. And so engage in self-reflection. Is this about something that I've done? Have I spent too much money and now I'm taking it out on the kids? Have I gone without eating and now I'm going off on my mom? Or
Not only that, I think self-reflection is too, even those triggers and those boundaries. Why do I have those boundaries? Am I really in an unsafe place? Or have I not dealt with things that other people that are not even in the room, it's not even with my family, and I haven't dealt with these triggers? Because correct me if I'm wrong, you are responsible, yes, for setting boundaries, and we're responsible for voicing our triggers, but sometimes we're just responsible for ourselves and that self-reflection of like, am I being triggered? I need to go to therapy. I need to figure out how to desensitize that trigger, right? Not my emotions, not myself, just not give external forces so much power over my well-being. And that's what self-reflection is. So if you take time and says, this holiday season, I think I'm going to spend it on my own, not to be resentful, not because my family is the problem. No, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out, does my mood actually change when I'm on my own doing these things that I believe are better new traditions, or am I still carrying these patterns? Because that could happen. You might be thinking, oh my gosh, I'm always in a bad mood when I go have Thanksgiving with my aunts and my cousins, and it's just, they're terrible. They're just, but then you remove yourself, right? Because the boundaries weren't set, or you're not in a position to create boundaries in somebody else's house. And you remove yourself, and then you start realizing, oh, I still woke up in a funky mood. And then it could be that thing, I'm not eating right, or I'm not. Anyways, self-reflection.
Yes. One final thing about self-reflection. Sometimes I have people that will come through the door and they'll talk about, she did X, Y, and Z, and Bobby, he did X, Y, Z, and start listing all of these relationship patterns. And I stopped to encourage reflection. Is could the problem be some things that you haven't dealt with in you?
Yeah.
So sometimes the problem is us, and us too. Not speaking that for you, I'm also speaking
for myself.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's something that I've had to do self-reflection in my life. It doesn't deny the fact that I went through traumatic events as a child. No, it doesn't change the fact that there were adults in my life that could have behaved better. No, but we do develop these coping mechanisms and these tendencies and our own toxic traits that we are responsible for. Yes, they may be an effect to something or a consequence to something, but we develop them on our own, and it's our responsibility to then deal with them with therapy, with self-care, with prep steps like we did in September. And these are just additional to that. And important, we could be the toxic environment, not even knowing it. We're the ones creating an environment where people feel like boundaries aren't being respected.
I'm not going to put too much effort on this next one. This is really prioritizing self-care. And in last month's episode, we talked all about 8 different ways of self-care. So I really want you to come back and listen to that podcast or watch that podcast on YouTube and really kind of get self-care. Where are you missing your self-care for you? If you're overextended, if you're overwhelmed, there may be areas in your life that you're not practicing self-care. So I really want you to practice self-care, especially in the holiday season, because things can be really magnified. And you're talking about breaking free from dysfunctional family patterns. And so there may be some things that have happened during the holiday season that are very triggering for you. Maybe it was during that holiday season that something happened. So take care of yourself. Make sure you're nurtured and really strengthened before you even go into this season with your family. That's why we wanted to put this out at the end of October instead of waiting until November, because by then I'm already dealing with my family. I've already been on the phone and who's
invitations
cooking
and you're not coming here, you're going over there.
Well, yes, it can get a little crazy. So we wanted to make sure that you had this stuff in advance. So next part I really want to talk about is sometimes we're dealing with the loss of a loved one. So we're going to talk about that more in the next episode. We're really going to dig into that. But just really kind of those traditions, if we've lost someone, or let's say it's not the loss of a person, maybe it's the loss of, like, no longer, I don't know, maybe the family home was sold and that was the place that
you guys
all
gathered
of your
every
memory,
year.
right? So creating traditions that acknowledge your loss, your loved one, your, where you came from, or those kind of sharing stories about your lost loved one or your home or whatever that loss is.
Yes. And I think that recycles back through the list we just shared and go into gratitude. There's a new opportunity to create new traditions, new ideas that build on what you used to do that you remembered. The grieving, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be death like that. It could be a separation, a divorce. And this is your first year doing the holidays on your own, maybe splitting the kids between 2 locations. That stuff is hard. And whether you're actively thinking about it, whether you're being mindful about the fact that you're going through something that's different, your body does. Your body still goes through it. Your mind still goes through it. Whether we bury down a memory or bury down the reality of what our life looks like to not have to feel the emotion, our body will still react to it. Our moods will be kind of funky, and we say we can't pinpoint it because we decided we're not thinking about that. That's not a problem. I think acknowledging it and doing the self-care and acknowledging this is a hard season, but then let's revisit our toolkit and work on the process and allow yourself the grace that some days are going to be hard and you're going to be emotional, and that's okay. You have room for that.
You want to be flexible during this time. Y'all, I don't know how many of you planned a party or a dinner and everything went exactly 100% the way you did.
Never.
And sometimes giving yourself the grace to be a little bit flexible. Maybe you have to drop everything and go to the store at 9:00 at night. When my children will tell you, if they had to get something during the middle of the week, they were afraid to ask me because I was not very flexible. I apologize. That's where I was at the time, so I wasn't very flexible, and I only went to the store on the weekends. And when I think back to it now, I go to the store all the time. Well, actually, I don't. I do the call
Instacart pickups. Yeah,
I spend less money that way. But flexibility is so important. A skill to do in the holidays when things don't always go the way you planned them to go.
Isn't flexibility part of resiliency, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're able to acknowledge things. Okay, not ideal. It's not necessarily that you want to create a pattern of not being ready, or it's okay. Like pivot. Let's then what can we do, right?
Right.
And what can we handle at this moment, and pursue that with gratitude and with the ability to make it something you remember next time. It's a memory. Sometimes things that happen unexpectedly bring great surprises. If you allow it to be something that is not affecting you in a negative way, but just an opportunity, you end up with just new traditions, I guess. If you think about it, I wonder our foods, right? If we had a particular meal that we did and something happened, we burnt the turkey, and then we had to go back into the oven and pick something different. That might be a new tradition. People might bet, you know what? I actually prefer spaghetti for Christmas. It happens. And you'd be surprised. You would come up when you allow yourself, forgive yourself, and the people around you. Because trust me, this is stressful for our kids too. They feel our stress. They feel our anxiety, and it's stressful for people that we go out in the stores, the people that are working on these busy days and are seeing hundreds and thousands of people shopping with their own moods and their own stress and their own responsibilities at home. It's stressful for everybody, and I feel like it's a collective energy that we need to take a minute and be mindful about.
Yeah. When I first left home, there was every year, the draw to go back home was a big thing because everybody went back home. My grandmother died not too long after I left home. So that did help in my personal transition of not having to go home. And then I was thousands of miles away from my family home. And the things that I had to do is I had to create new traditions for my family. And so really reflecting on what about the growing up, because there's a lot of good memories. It's hard when I come from a dysfunctional family and I had some bad things. I want to, throw out the baby with the bathwater, which I don't even know where that came from. Now, what it was that was important to me, that memories that were so important to me, what about them made them important? I did find one thing. So I was born on Thanksgiving. Did you know that, Issa?
I did not know that.
Yeah. Because, I don't know whether it was because my mother didn't want to be a bother, and so she didn't want to put any kind of undue stress on the family, so she would just have my birthday party after the Thanksgiving meal. Who wants to eat cake? Guys, do y'all want to eat cake after Thanksgiving meal?
Mostly pie. Yeah.
It's pie. Everybody wants to have a birthday party.
Yeah.
People would be asleep in the living room and they're trying to sing happy birthday, and my mom and me and maybe one or two other people were in the kitchen while they're singing happy birthday. And so something that was important to me was that whether my birthday was on Thanksgiving that year or not, my birthday isn't celebrated on Thanksgiving anymore. And I don't know how many people was born on Thanksgiving and had a Thanksgiving baby, but I had a Thanksgiving baby too.
Oh, that's right. Yes. I didn't know you shared a birthday. Yeah.
We're not on the same day.
It just so happens that you share a birthday, kind of milestone birthday.
Right. Yeah. Even when his birthday was on Thanksgiving, I didn't want to celebrate his birthday on Thanksgiving because that was such a trigger for me, but it wasn't for him. And he's like, but why?
Yeah, do it. There's food here already.
Right. Yeah. Here. And so, but it's funny how those patterns from our childhood, the things that are triggering for one generation, maybe not necessarily for the other.
Yeah. And it could be a thing of like you've worked and you've done a journey of healing, and you're able to kind of reinforce and affirm your children in other ways. They weren't as sensitive about it, but
Right.
you had other issues going on that you weren't being affirmed on a regular basis. So that was just another thing that was taken from you, which is different. And I'm not here to analyze Ellie, but I just thought about that. We forget that. But it goes with the dysfunctional home. It goes with us too. Sometimes, and I've done this in my own household, things that were triggering for me growing up because of discipline or certain things, I've decided that somehow will automatically not be right for my children, and you kind of on purpose. But when you really think, it's the combination of a lot of things together that lead to dysfunction sometime, and not just the one thing that just so happens to stick with us. And when we look at, for instance, discipline, right? It's important. But if you were over disciplined and you decide, when I have children, I'm not going to do, then you're doing them a dysfunction in a different way. There's dysfunction in it. I think there's a balance. It's like, what about the way I was disciplined was helpful to me? And what can I do different from a healed place to discipline my children? But throwing the baby with the bathwater would be like, I'm just going to let them do whatever. That's not helpful for their development either.
Well, we really have to, when we're considering those new holiday traditions, is really looking at, what do I value? Do I value family? Do I value my spiritual walk? Maybe it's to church on Christmas Eve and spending time that way. Creating I believe you said during our last episode, you even talked about having the birthday party for Jesus.
You did that before.
Those things that bring you joy and that align with your values. That's what find what matters to you and your family. And sometimes, in the military community, military family, it is a family, really. And I'm closer to the people that I know in church than I am often with my own biological family.
Correct. When it comes to activities and daily life, just
absolutely. And so for many years, there were certain people that I would spend the holidays with. They were my chosen family, and they're still super close to me. COVID happened and people started falling apart from one another. Spending that time with the people you choose to spend it with, whether it's biological family or whether it's your chosen family, you get to choose.
Correct. Yeah. You can still honor your relatives and honor the holidays and honor your memories, but also honor the life that you are forging forward and being okay with that, being like your peace, choosing what you want to do. And it might even be that you do go on and meet with your family, but maybe together you come to a place where new traditions can be introduced that make everybody feel included. And I know that happens. I have friends and family that have incorporated their traditions, like their children, and now we do both. I actually have an example. In my household, we open presents with our children at home, just us, the morning of Christmas. And then we do brunch and open what grandparents got for them at grandparents' house, or they come over. But we've decided that we wanted to have this time intimate with our own children during that initial type of the morning, while they have their intimate time, as our empty nesters, so they can have their morning to exchange gifts and do whatever they want in the morning. They raised children. They did the setting up of the presents the night before. They did that for their children. We're doing it differently, and we want to what they see. We want our kids to relate those mornings with us and with God, and that's important to us. And they've honored that, and we've honored it. It was a conversation that was had. It needed to be had because when my three youngest were younger, we did live together for a little bit, and we had a huge house, and we decided to do like blended family thing. So there was already Christmases that we spent together right off the bat. So when we moved into each other's homes, that was something we spoke of and came to an agreement, and we both respected it. So that's a healthy way of incorporating both things. We all have traditions, and everybody's welcome to come, but we just said, as our family, this is what we're going to do in the morning, and that's it.
It's the last point here is really kind of get married or first marriage. Hopefully, marriage is the only marriage, but for me, I've been married more than once, and so we came from a blended family. And when my husband and I came together, we really had to decide what was important from his us, and what was important from my standpoint, and that was honoring of all of our children, not just mine, not just his, and really coming together and figuring that out.
Correct.
And so we do something similar, but only we do Christmas Eve at our house and we do a traditional Italian meal, which is not something my family did growing up, which I don't know why, because we're Italian, but whatever. I wanted my children to know something about our Italian culture, and so I tried to bring that into my family. But I want my children and their children to have Christmas morning. I don't want them to try to go somewhere or do something. I want them to be able to have that time.
Yeah.
And so we don't encroach on that. We might go over to one of them's house after, the evening for a meal or something like that. Or we've been known to jump on a cruise ship on Christmas Day.
Yeah, not a vacation
travel
together.
It's Christmas Eve, but that's what's important to me.
Yeah. And comes runs through the night and then the morning. And I agree. Like, we have family time, then intimate time with ourselves, and family time again.
Yeah.
We just, me down too. I don't have to be, especially when they were younger, packing bags and diaper bags and running out the door. And so what we do is they stay in their jammies until comfortable, and we don't have to be running around. But yes, correct. And there's sometimes where it might not be an easy conversation to have with your relatives, and that's where the boundaries come in, and where you make a decision. Am I give in and be miserable? Am I going to compromise and come to an agreement where we all are comfortable with it, or am I going to stick with what we've decided as a family? At the end of the day, you will and you are responsible as an adult for your well-being, your emotional state, and you need to learn what that is for you in that season. It doesn't excuse bad behavior because we haven't dealt with trauma. I'm not saying that we have to, but it does give you time to say, look, I don't know how I feel about even Christmas at this time. And I might be grieving the loss of somebody, and I just don't want to celebrate. I'm not in a place where I can even do that. Just commit to working it through, allowing you that grace this season, communicating this adequately with the people you love and that love you, so it doesn't become like they're the problem or you're even the problem. It's just a season.
Right. Communication is so important. And as we wrap it up, about a better way to create new holiday traditions. And clients talk to me about what is normal, or are they normal? Who's norm in the population? So there is no real normal. We all come from families that had some functional moments and probably had a lot of dysfunctional moments, or some, maybe just a few minor dysfunctional moments. But we all have dysfunction in some area of our life. So it's really thinking about what traditions do you want to keep and what traditions do you want to incorporate, and exploring. And I love what you said, really, truly about communication. Show up and then be mad because no one checked on you. I'm struggling this year, and this year I can't be around so-and-so. And that's okay. If that's how you're feeling, and therapy, if you need, we could all use a little bit of therapy.
Absolutely. Sometimes. And honestly, I don't think we've said this enough. You don't have to be in crisis to benefit from therapy.
Absolutely.
I feel like it's a maintenance thing. I don't need to have something wrong with my mouth to choose to brush my teeth every day, right? We brush our teeth for maintenance, right? We go to the dentist for deeper cleanings, and we go to the dentist for other things, right? Or when we have some issues in our mouth, but we brush our teeth to prevent those things. So you can be in an amazing place, you can be feeling, but just to maintain that in this ever-changing world, and to be able to continuously interact with people that are not going to therapy, that are not healed, that are not doing the work, that are not self-aware, you have to be prepared. Just like we read the word every day, right? We have the Holy Spirit in us, but what does it say? Read the word, be in the word, stay connected to the word. I feel like therapy is that for us to function in a society that is dysfunctional, because the truth is we live in a dysfunctional world. And if we're not aware and we don't do mindfulness and we don't have somebody to talk to, that we're not emotionally afraid to hurt with our feelings, because to be honest, sometimes feelings, we're just processing them. But if we're saying it, we just said something to somebody that might not be able to see that as a feeling, you were processing it, and they internalize it, and then they become, we talk to a therapist or a third party or somebody that we can trust, a counselor, ideally our churches grow into having people that can fill in that gap, right? But right now that's not the reality for every church, but send people to learn therapy, to learn counseling, to learn psychiatry, to learn all these different sciences into the mind that can help you kind of live in that way and practice the tools that God gave you to. How do I give myself grace? Well, that's what we talk about, like prioritizing care. That's how you give yourself grace. It's like giving you a self checkup and being able to tell somebody, man, I really couldn't stand my husband. That's not something you can tell your husband without hurting them sometimes. Right. Even though it's a real feeling you're having in that moment, sometimes you can't take certain words back and you can't really put that on people. Well, you should know that I'm just talking. That's kind of what to put on people sometimes. Yeah. But if we go to a therapist and we're like, today I just couldn't, and then they go, okay, but why? Tell me why. And then you're able to unpack all that, and then you sometimes hear yourself and you're like, oh, it was actually me. Problem today. But you did it in a safe environment. You didn't hurt anybody's feelings, and able to kind of get out there and get healthy feedback back. Right. Not just enabling feedback. Because yes, we can go to our girlfriends and sometimes we do, but sometimes our girlfriends, they're not therapists and they're not equipped. They're like, yeah, man, awful, without really hearing the whole story. Or they don't side with you. Yeah. Or yes, it's different.
He's awful, but you dropped a 5-gallon jug of water.
Yes, emptied the bank account, but understand me. So we need people in our life that have this gift of kindness and telling us the truth in love and kind of guiding us in the direction where we see ourselves. Because isn't that therapy? Yes. You speak and essentially you're given a mirror. Like, okay, this is what you're saying, but this is also what you're saying. This is what you can control. This is what you can't control. And it kind of gives you got little, think of a pressure cooker. Everything is just cooking in there and you have all these frustrations and unfortunately don't have these tools because you came from dysfunction or have dysfunction and do not know how to decompress in a healthy way. So if you don't let the little fire and then you try to open the lid, guess what? There's an explosion and everybody gets hurt. You and this within that pressure cooker is going to get hurt. The food's in the ceiling, that happens. And that's us. If we don't find a way to release the steam in a healthy way with coping mechanisms, with therapy, with all of it combined, with the word, with prayer, we end up opening a lid that's just ready to explode and we just throw up on everybody. Right. And that's really what we're trying to avoid. The holidays is dysfunction. Yes, you can't change your past. And we're all in a journey. We're going to make mistakes. We're tripping over this, end up with something in the process. Right. But we learn from it. And then we learn to let steam out in healthy ways. And absolutely. And like really that are productive to what we're trying to do in our lives and what we want to see as an end result. Yeah. So yes, therapy is not just because we're dysfunctional. It's in fact to prevent it and to regulate. Right. Absolutely. Well, guys, we talked about a lot today, and next time we're going to talk about really navigating the holiday season when you've had a significant loss in your life, especially with it being the first or second time that you've had to go through the holidays without your loved one. Yeah. So we'll talk about that next time. And until then, we have some podcasts out there. We also have the books at EleanorBrownCounseling.com. You can find all of the stuff. So, it's out, see what you may need help with, and we're here to help. Absolutely. My tongue doesn't want to work today. Yes, no, just reach out, and like I said, we put a lot of information out. Just come and watch it again with a new perspective. She's going to put some resources there, and we hope to see you next month. All right. Bye. Bye.